A fragile ceasefire broken overnight after deadly Israeli airstrikes rocked the Gaza Strip. Minutes ago, Israel's foreign ministry said this was in response to Hamas rejecting two concrete mediation proposals presented by the U.S. The sound and scene of strikes there in Gaza. In the aftermath, there are horrific scenes coming out of Gaza City. The Palestinian Health Ministry says more than 400 people have been killed. Gaza hospitals simply overwhelmed as doctors race to treat heavily wounded patients. One doctor telling us the majority of the patients she's been seeing are children.
I could hear people yelling outside, screaming. I heard ambulances driving on and off. The bombs have also been hitting tents and other structures where families have taken refuge. There's dozens of children reported killed, many more injured.
CNN's Jeremy Diamond is in Tel Aviv for us. Jeremy, what does this mean for the ceasefire? Obviously, we can see what it means for the Palestinians, but also for the hostages who hang in the balance.
Well, for the moment at least, this ceasefire is very much dead. The war is back on as the Israeli military launched a punishing series of deadly airstrikes across the Gaza Strip from southern to central to northern Gaza overnight. More than 400 people have been killed now, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health's latest death toll. More than 500 people have been wounded. And as you noted, a number of those victims have indeed been children. The Israeli Prime Minister, in launching this offensive last night, said that it was launched because of Hamas's repeated refusal to release hostages. Here's a spokesman for the Israeli Foreign Ministry this morning.
Concrete proposals made by the American Special Envoy to extend the ceasefire. Hamas said no. So with no other choice, Israel is forced to carry out this activity.
And so, as you can hear, that is the Israeli government's justification. But it is, of course, important to note that Hamas said it was willing to continue to negotiate. While it rejected that proposal from Steve Witkoff, it wanted to go back to the deal that Israel and Hamas both signed onto, meaning negotiating phase 2 of this ceasefire agreement, which would entail an end of the war in Gaza and the withdrawal of all Israeli troops. But in recent weeks, the Israeli government has made clear it was not interested in negotiating that phase 2 agreement. Instead, looking to get more hostages out of Gaza without making engaging in those overall negotiations. Now, the real question is whether or not Israel and Hamas can come back to the negotiating table. It is clear that the Israeli military strikes are in part a pressure tactic here to try and get Hamas to agree to these new conditions to release more hostages. But in the meantime, of course, we are seeing what it means for the people of Gaza and also the families of hostages now speaking out as well, expressing severe concern for the fate of their loved ones amid this bombardment of Gaza. Sarah?
Yeah, the picture's devastating, and the families on both sides of this devastated. Thank you so much, Jeremy Diamond. I really appreciate it. Israel has said basically two things are the reason for the end of the ceasefire. One, that Hamas did not release all the hostages, and because its officials say Hamas rejected the U.S. deal that was on the table. Are you surprised how quickly and how severe this attack happened?
Yeah, I am a bit surprised that it happened at this particular moment in time. But when you look at the dynamics of the Israeli political landscape, it's pretty clear that Prime Minister Netanyahu wants to not only keep the conflict going, he doesn't want to go to phase 2 of the agreement that was reached under the Biden administration. And that is something that, is really putting the population of Gaza at risk for the kinds of scenes that we're seeing right now. So what you're seeing is really the outgrowth of Israeli efforts to, yes, get the hostages back, but number one, to continue to pound Hamas, in essence, in an effort to destroy it and to make it completely unviable as an organization. That has not succeeded in spite of the massive amounts of ordnance that Israel has pounded into Gaza. And they're continuing to do this, but it's a strategy that really portends a war without end. And that's a very dangerous scenario for the Middle East.
I was going to ask you about how you thought this would end, and for you and for a lot of people, they don't see what the end is going to be. I do want to mention what Hamas is saying this morning, saying that Israel's coordination with the United States ahead of resuming the war confirms what it says is Washington's complicity in the war. The U.S. has been accused of this before by protesters here in America. What do you eventually see happening here in this scenario where there doesn't seem to be any way to get the two sides together right now?
Yeah, it's going to be really difficult, and I really feel for the families of the Israeli hostages because that's going to, I think, be something that is going to be dragged out even longer. Hamas is, basically put into a bit of a corner, but they are still able to survive, and that very fact that they're able to survive does indicate that they have certain planning capabilities. Supposedly, one of the other things that Hamas, was planning was some kind of an attack in, the style of October 7, 2023. If that is actually the case, then the Israelis will use that as a justification, or have perhaps already used this as a justification for their actions today. And that is something that, I think we'll see more and more of that. So the future does not look good for Gaza, and a resolution of that conflict, I suspect it will go on for 6 to 12 months from now.
All right, retired Air Force Colonel Cedric Leighton, thank you so much for your great analysis this morning.
So you have been in communication with your team in Gaza. They're all safe and accounted for. But what are they telling you about what happened in the early hours of the morning when these Israeli strikes shook them from their beds?
Well, it was very similar to what the doctor who you had on just a few moments ago, my colleague wrote to me. He said that shortly after 2 a.m, they were woken up by intensive bombing. The building was shaking, and they immediately started getting reports of strikes all across Gaza. They said that phone lines were jammed as people tried to check in with one another, make sure that their families were okay. And as of around 5:30 this morning, Gaza time, when I was in touch with him, he said that there was continued shelling and bombing, and heavy attacks had continued since 2 a.m. People, including our staff, are of course in shock. They are very stressed out. They are very worried about what is to come. This is, of course, recalls the early days after October 7th, when we saw that casualty numbers were incredibly high.
Yeah, I mean, this is a terrifying situation for your teams and everyone living across Gaza. As you say, it's extensive from north to south. So what is happening at this hour? Do you know? What are your team members telling you?
I think they're just still trying to figure out who is safe. Continuing, we've suspended all movements, making sure that people are sheltering in place where they are. About half of our staff had returned back to northern Gaza to see their families, check on their homes, and so people are spread throughout Gaza. And of course, we're incredibly concerned about the fact that as we've seen these renewed hostilities, as we've seen this bombardment, that very little aid is present inside of Gaza due to a 16, now 17-day complete siege where no aid or commercial goods have entered. We know that fuel is in short supply, and so it's possible that in the coming days we will lose telecommunications, that hospitals will collapse, there will be no clean drinking water available, and food distributions will come to a halt.
Yeah, I mean, so many problems ahead here. And of course, we know that more than 200 people have been killed so far by these Israeli strikes, and hundreds have been wounded too and left homeless. So what will this mean for your teams? What will they be doing in the hours ahead to help those impacted by these deadly strikes?
Well, of course, we'll do everything that we can, but it's very difficult when our teams themselves are affected, are impacted, are unable to move, are unable to get where we're unable to guarantee their safety and their ability to go out and conduct distributions. Already our warehouses were running quite low due to the fact that no aid has entered. And so we will do whatever we can to continue to support the people of Gaza and to continue to support our colleagues in Gaza with their efforts, but it's really, I think, very early to tell in terms of if there are renewed hostilities over the next few days, what in fact we may be able to do.
And in situations like this, do you keep your teams in place, or is it easier to get them out at this juncture and regroup and then send them back in to help people? How do you work out what to do from here?
Well, most of our team are actually local national staff, Palestinians from Gaza who have been impacted over the last 17 months, and we will continue to work as best as we can. It's unclear yet how much freedom of movement there will be inside of Gaza. We've already heard seen reports that the private military contractors who were in Gaza controlling the Netzarim corridor and monitoring that checkpoint have withdrawn. So it's unclear where our staff will be able to go and how we'll be able to mobilize them given the conditions on the ground right now.